today's short meditation, we'll be looking into Daniel chapter 1 verses 8, where it says, "But Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine that he drank." It goes on, but we are only trying to focus on verse 8 because today we'll be seeing how confident Daniel was when he had this resolvement within himself. Because today we fail to have this resolvement. But here we see how Daniel sets a great example for us to have this resolvement. When we see what is this resolvement, it's nothing but determined not to change our mind. Here why Daniel is being resolved, he resolved in his heart, not just in his mind. He resolved in his heart not to defile with the king's food or with the wine. And God showed him the favor with his captors. When we see in the further verses, we know the story how Daniel was faithful to God in a foreign country, in a foreign land. And here, how God had showed favor to him with his captors and with his officials, and how Daniel proved himself that how much resolvement he had. He proved later that he was more stronger than the people who ate king's food and wine. Daniel and his friends were more fit or more stronger than the other people who ate king's food. Here we see what the thing we need to focus is the decision what Daniel took. Someone said when they see from aeroplane, when they see down the river, or nowadays we have this opportunity to look into our mobiles or any form of media to look how the nature looks. Or when we see from above how the river is not very straight. It is always crooked. When you see the common thing, all the lines of those part of those waters are not straight, but crooked. They take the easy way to be connected and to get into a flow. But when you see from above, the common thing that you see in the river is they are crooked. They are not straight. But when you see the river part, at least it has that resistance, when it's not straight but crooked. They are crooked because it makes them the easier way for them to connect to the flow. But today when we see the Christians are also crooked like these rivers, we take an easier way. We are kind of crooked in some ways because we try to compromise with this world and we try to live worldly in some areas. When temptation comes, though we are strong, we are weak in heart because we don't have that resolvement. We need to learn today that we need to have this resolvement in our heart, just like Daniel, and not to be crooked, to take the easiest way, easiest path of this world. Sometimes it is very hard, and for Daniel it was not hard, but God showed the favor. For us it may not be hard, but God will show the favor. In order not to be crooked, we should be in the path. How do we get in path? When we have the resolvement in our heart. We need to decide, we need to be determined not to get in the path of temptation, but rather in the path of God, being faithful to Him and righteous in all the ways that we could. And when we see in 1 John chapter 4 verses 4, he says, rather than being overcome, we can be overcomers. Nothing should make us to go down or pull us astray, because we can become the overcomers, not just staying back and not trying to overcome. We should not fail. Here how John says is, rather than to be overcome, we should become the overcomers. Here we see John encourages us to be overcomers, not to let the world or the temptation overcome us. We should not let the temptation to overcome us. Rather, we should be the overcomers. And when we see Daniel, how did he become an overcomer? It's because he resolved in his heart. So today, my dear friends, let us try to have this resolvement, just like Daniel. He had his problems in his times, we have our problems in our time. But the God is same. The same God who showed favor to Daniel, who led Daniel is the same God who will lead us and who will show the favor to us. So let us have this resolvement. Simply just believing or just seeing or just reading will not become overcomers. We need to be determined. We should make the decision. We should resolve, not just in our mind, but in our hearts, to not let the temptation come in, but rather to become the overcomers. So let's examine ourselves and let us try to have this resolvement, just like Daniel, and be an overcomer. And let God lead us. And that is only possible when we submit ourselves and have this determination in our hearts. When we look back to the river has no choice. It doesn't matter what, it has to be crooked. But we, as believers, as Christians, we have a choice. So let us take the straight path, the straight way, not the crooked way. And let's have the determination and resolvement in our hearts.